Choi Yul's peaceful life in 2023 is shattered when his city is transported into a gigantic, nightmarish game. The city becomes a pawn in a game controlled by mysterious players, and its citizens must roll dice to defend against monster attacks. Choi, incredibly lucky, acquires a mythical grimoire, granting him immense power, but also causing resentment among his fellow citizens. As the city's strongest defender, he faces increasing hostility and powerful monsters. Despite the animosity and whispers of betrayal, Choi resolves to protect the city, embracing his role as a controversial hero in a game of unknown beings called Players. Will this insane game full of mystery, strategy, and unexpected betrayals ever come to an end? The day unfolds like any other in 2023. The city maintains its usual tranquility with people going about their lives, engaging in conversation and trade. Choi Yul is seen passing by, calmly immersed in his music. Suddenly, a peculiar aura envelops the city, and the ground begins to tremble. As chaos spreads among the citizens, they speculate whether it's a terrorist attack or an unusually powerful earthquake. Unbeknownst to anyone, this day marks the end of their city's peaceful existence, as it has been chosen as a pawn in a larger game. Choi Yul experiences a sudden sensation of acceleration, reminiscent of being in an elevator, and is taken aback upon realizing the city is ascending and he stands at its edge. Choi Yul, much like any other anime and manga enthusiast, harbors a fascination for otherworldly adventures and dimensional teleportation, akin to those depicted in Jobless Reincarnation, also known as Mushoku Tensei. He begins to speculate if something similar is transpiring around them. People attempt to make phone calls, but grow increasingly frustrated as they find there is no cell service available. Suddenly, a system announcement panel materializes before them. The panel indicates that a game has commenced and instructs the players to roll their dice. Bewildered, no one comprehends the situation. A girl points skyward, speculating whether a meteor is about to strike, but it turns out to be an enormous die. The citizens observe that their city is enclosed within a cube-like barrier. As the die lands, revealing a number, the system announces that their city, designated as pawn number 8, will move 3 spaces. As the city lurches forward, people struggle to maintain their balance as though they were on a bus that started moving without any warning. By this time, Choi realizes that they have been summoned into a game, although they are not the players. He speculates that they are pawns in the game, while the person who threw the dice is the player. He connects their situation to a game and deduces that it is not the humans, but the city itself that has been chosen as a pawn by someone acting as the player. One thing that Choi cannot comprehend is why they were summoned along with the city. As Choi is lost in his thoughts, another announcement appears. According to the announcement, they have arrived at a defense space and must roll their dice. The system sets the difficulty at level 1, giving them only 3 days for defense preparation. The system notifies them of a new map and their city suddenly ascends, merging with another piece of land. Behind the barrier, a massive wave of monsters becomes vaguely visible. As everyone tries to understand the situation, a new notification appears, warning that it will be game over if the 4 bases are destroyed. Following this announcement, 4 locations in their city are designated as bases. The system further clarifies that if the game ends, the city, as the pawn, will perish. Many people become frustrated and pound their fists against the barrier, shouting to be returned home. However, Choi accepts the reality, understanding that attempting to communicate is futile. If the players intended to communicate, they would have done so from the beginning. Considering everything, Choi knows it is best for them to focus on the announcements for now. Another notification appears, instructing the citizens to roll their dice. Depending on their role, they will receive equipment ranging from ordinary to mythical class. Choi finds a 100-faced die in his hand and is amazed by its complexity. Before most people can roll, a horde of monsters approaches, initially mistaken by the citizens as a rescue team. The monstrous horde, including goblins, wolf-like creatures, and various other beasts, incites widespread panic in the city. The monsters rampage through the streets, killing everyone in sight. As a giant approaches, it smashes its weapon into Choi, sending him flying and badly wounded from the impact. At that moment, Choi realizes that humans are a force within the game, tasked with protecting the pawn, the city, at all costs to advance toward an unknown goal, assuming one exists at all. No one knows if this game serves merely as entertainment or if the players are some form of deities or demons. As the monster closes in on Choi, who lies injured among scattered boxes, a warrior girl named Go Heiju swoops in, With a single strike from her weapon, she summons a fire tornado that swiftly dispatches all monsters nearby. Heiju reveals she has rolled a legendary class spear, known as the Imperial Flame Dragon Prominence's Canine. She immediately orders the injured to seek refuge in Numsun Tower. She instructs everyone to roll their dice, explaining that the results will transform into equipment corresponding to their rolls. Those who receive ordinary weapons are asked to step back, while those with higher class magical equipment are urged to assist in battling the monsters. As people roll their dice, they acquire weapons and equipment as instructed. They prepare themselves and join the fight to aid their fellow humans. On this very day, their lives undergo a profound transformation. Instead of their usual routines, they find themselves thrust into a new and unexpected existence. On the first day of the new year, a day marked by both tragedy and the birth of heroes, Choy lies among the boxes, hardly stirring. He extends his hand and rolls the dice. The die spins, coming to rest on 100, transforming into a mythical class grimoire, known as the Demon King of Sovereignty, Cross-Seema's book. This weapon grants its wielder access to a wealth of information, including item locations and hidden events. This weapon would elevate Choy to unparalleled strength, though later, people would come to dub him the worst ever garbage. The unique aspect of this grimoire weapon is that all rewards gleaned from its knowledge by survivors will unfailingly accrue to its owner. 3 hours have elapsed since the defense mission began, with casualties numbering in the tens of thousands. One of the 4 bases has been destroyed. Heiju and the other heroes appear exhausted, questioning if the battle has concluded. Just as they begin to celebrate their perceived victory, the Korean army arrives. Are they here hoping for unearned credit? Otherwise, what's the point of coming when the show's over? The army soldiers fan out across the area with their guns, directing all injured individuals to board their trucks for immediate evacuation to Numsun Tower. Kywan Jae-young, the leader adorned with a hero-class helmet, expresses gratitude to Heiju for her tireless efforts and credits her for buying them valuable time. Heiju asks Kywan if the ordeal is over, and if they have managed to eliminate all the monsters. Kywan explains that due to the loss of all communications and internet services, they have no means of confirmation. However, they are actively using radio waves to establish communication. Once this objective is achieved, they anticipate better coordination and a clearer understanding of the current situation. Kywan advises Heiju to head to Numsun Tower for safety, but before they can depart, Choy approaches them clutching his grimoire. Despite his disheveled appearance and wounds, he insists that the battle is far from over and the boss monster is approaching. He explains that his book contains all mission details, monster data, and progress reports. Choy gestures with his grimoire, urging them to examine its contents themselves. However, both Heiju and Kywan can only see blank pages. Choy wipes blood from his forehead, pondering if he alone can decipher the book's writings. Kywan remarks that if Choy's claims are accurate, the grimoire functions like a data repository, an immensely powerful weapon where information equates to strength. Kywan presses Choy for proof to substantiate his claims. Choy studies his grimoire and reveals that Kywan's helmet, the Helden's Helmet, is part of a renowned set of 6 hero-ranked items. He proceeds to detail specifics about Kywan, including information about the helmet's previous users. Turning to Heiju, Choy divulges details about her weapons and even mentions personal preferences like her favorite song. Embarrassed by the accuracy of Choy's revelations, Heiju begins to consider the grimoire's legitimacy, especially given its inclusion of personal details. Confirming his suspicions, Kywan grows concerned about the impending boss monster and resolves to contact headquarters immediately. Is he pulling one over on them, or are there new radio towers up already? As Kywan successfully contacts headquarters, he informs Choy that despite the inherent risk and their lack of a plan, they've chosen to trust the data from his grimoire. Handing Choy the radio device, Kywan asks him to relay the details to headquarters. Choy eagerly takes the radio, testing the microphone to ensure it's functioning properly. He proceeds to explain the mission details recorded in his grimoire. Choy describes the defense mission objective, protecting their bases from waves of monsters arriving every 6 hours. He elaborates that each wave concludes with a boss monster encounter, starting with a twin-headed ogre in the first wave. This boss is formidable and capable of both close combat and magic attacks. Choy continues, explaining that the defense mission will span 3 days with a total of 12 waves to face. He emphasizes that with the comprehensive information he possesses, combined strategic planning could lead them to survive the ordeal. Choy asserts his commitment to seeking a way to return the city to its original world. Once the mission concludes, Heiju blushes, impressed by Choy's deep awareness of their circumstances and his forward-thinking approach. He He shares all the mission details he has gathered, ensuring everyone is informed and prepared. As the scene shifts to the Demon King of Sovereignty, Krasina, Choi's future self reflects on his oversight of not double-checking the item information in his grimoire while he was unconscious. He laments that his grimoire isn't merely a data book, but a device that monopolizes all rewards derived from its information, channeling them exclusively to its owner. This extends not only to those who directly receive information from Choy, but to anyone who hears it secondhand. The scene transitions back to the Korean army utilizing Choi's information effectively, exploiting the monster's weaknesses and gaining the upper hand in battle. As the boss monster, the twin-headed ogre, arrives, Choy takes charge, guiding the army and humanity to victory. With the conclusion of the first wave, all the rewards from the battle flow into Choi's grimoire, where a chained-up woman, likely the Demon Queen, is depicted. As the Demon Lady opens her eyes, a malicious grin spreads across her face. This moment marks just the beginning of events that will unfold relentlessly until the final moments of the game, where every human in the city will have perished, leaving Choy as the last one standing. As they confront the first wave, the defense mission unfolds much like a strategic defense game. Monsters relentlessly rush towards the base, intent on its destruction, while players muster forces and recruit weapons to thwart their advance. Choy takes charge, actively engaging in combat and providing instructions to everyone. He directs players to target monsters, equipped with long-range weapons capable of wide-area attacks. Both civilians and soldiers heed Choi's commands, following his guidance diligently. Choy further informs them that level 1 difficulty monsters possess no intelligence, making them easily manipulable and susceptible to being led in specific directions. Choy advises the group to inflict as much damage as possible on the monsters, causing them to scatter and become easier targets. Once the long-range monsters are neutralized, Choy directs teams equipped with higher-level gear to eliminate the remaining threats. He carefully coordinates their movements, impressed by his grimoire's ability to update in real time. Using his grimoire, Choy effortlessly accesses the information he needs simply by thinking about it, marveling at its instant responsiveness. Fully equipped and confident, Choy reassures himself and the others that victory is within reach. He guides the group on which equipment is best for support roles, and strategizes their positions to minimize casualties. The scene shifts to a massive goblin monster being taken down by soldiers, who promptly relay all pertinent information to Choy. Initially, this information was routed through headquarters, where commanders decided whether or not to heed Choi Yul's suggestions. However, soon everyone began turning directly to Choy for directives, effectively placing him in command of the entire city. Observing this, Kywan ponders whether it's Choi's natural leadership or the grimoire that's responsible for his commanding abilities. Choy approaches Sergeant Kywan and calmly informs him that they are nearing the end of the defense mission with the final wave's boss imminent. He assures Kywan not to worry, confidently stating that Heiju will dispatch the final boss with a single decisive strike. Choy takes Kywan and Heiju with him to confront the final boss alone. As they travel in the vehicle, Heiju relaxes in the back, drifting off to sleep. Suddenly, she is startled awake by a voice, only to find the boss monster, Billy the Giant, looming directly in front of them. Startled, she screams, hoping to divert the creature as their vehicle speeds away. She questions Choy why he didn't wake her earlier. The boss monster, Billy the Giant, is classified at level 1 difficulty. It makes a sluggish attempt to strike them, revealing its slow pace and lack of intelligence. Choy explains that he brought them here precisely because if such a creature were to enter the city, it would cause widespread destruction. He comments on the monster's slow speed and vulnerability to various elemental attacks, underscoring the rationale for their preemptive action. Kywan suggests that they could easily defeat the monster by continuously firing at it, but Heiju points out that they are alone in this situation. Choy calmly informs her that she will be the one attacking the monster. This revelation startles Heiju, prompting her to ask what she should do. Choy reassures her, explaining that in every piece of equipment above heroic rank, there exists a hidden feature that can be unlocked under specific conditions. He mentions that, while they will need to discover these conditions, his grimoire already holds that knowledge. As Heiju prepares herself for the confrontation, she expresses her fear and asks Choy if she will be safe. With unwavering confidence, Choy encourages her to trust both him and the grimoire, assuring her that everything will be alright. Heiju, though hesitant, places complete trust in Choy. The boss monster delivers a powerful strike towards her, causing concern for Kywan, but Choy reassures him that she is unharmed. As the conditions for her weapon's activation are met, it unleashes its hidden skill, a single-use ability that summons the Imperial Flame Dragon Prominence, obliterating the monster into fragments. Reflecting on the power of Heiju's weapon, Kywan remarks that if she had used such a devastating skill within the city, the consequences would have been dire. However, he acknowledges that Choi's grimoire holds even greater danger. The information it contains is immensely potent, and if it fell into the wrong hands, it could easily lead to the downfall of the entire city. Choy assists Heiju and ensures her well-being, prompting Kywan to feel reassured and grateful that someone like Choy possesses such a formidable grimoire. As they triumph over the boss monster, everyone outside the city, including Choy, Heiju, and Kywan, is transported back inside. A system announcement declares that rewards will be distributed to the surviving citizens, consisting of both communal and individual rewards. Excitement fills the air as a point shop opens up. A girl suggests prioritizing healing from the point shop, emphasizing its importance before anything else. Choy feels relieved knowing that all the injured will soon be cared for. However, unexpectedly, a strange event unfolds. All citizens awarded points are reduced to 0, attributed to an unforeseen effect known as the sacrifice of sovereignty. The sudden announcement of 0 points causes an uproar among the public, who are enraged because they desperately need points to heal injuries and regenerate lost limbs. Heiju turns to Choy for an explanation, but he admits he's just as clueless about the situation. Another announcement follows, revealing the top 3 individuals with the highest points, with Choi Yul at the top with a staggering 10-digit number of points. The crowd turns furious, accusing Choy of betrayal and demanding answers about the sacrifice of sovereignty. They swarm towards him, questioning if he orchestrated this outcome. Heiju and Kywan step in to protect Choy, sensing the escalating tension. Choy vehemently denies any betrayal, shouting that he had no knowledge of the sacrifice of sovereignty feature. Kywan suggests Choy shared his points with the public, believing they can be traded or used somehow, and reasoning that Choy wouldn't have caused this intentionally. Choy, bewildered by the unfolding events, attempts to share his points only to be thwarted by his grimoire's passive skill, Demon King's monopolistic desire, which prevents him from distributing items or points. Frustrated and unsure of what to do, Choy faces mounting anger from the people, who accuse him of withholding their points and label him a monster. In a desperate attempt to help, Choy tries to purchase healing items himself and distribute them manually, but the passive skill continues to block his efforts. Feeling increasingly helpless and enraged, Choy impulsively throws his grimoire away and asks Heiju to burn it with her weapon. As the flames consume the grimoire, Choy tries once more to access his menu and share the points, only to have the book inexplicably returned to him. Overwhelmed with frustration, he collapses, punching the ground in anguish. Amidst the chaos and desperation, a person's plea for just 10 points to save a friend echoes through the crowd. Anger and resentment towards Choy intensify as the situation escalates, with everyone hurling accusations and threats at him. Kywan, faced with the rising death toll and the dire circumstances, reluctantly makes a difficult decision. He raises his gun towards Choy, acknowledging grimly that this seems to be the only solution left. Kywan, holding his new friend at gunpoint, advises Choy to flee and find a way to fix the devastating situation he has caused. Choy, without delay, opens his system menu while his friends shield him from the enraged crowd. He quickly buys as many agility points as possible before shooting into the sky, provoking everyone's anger at his escape. The uproar is interrupted by a system notification about the time remaining until the next turn. Panic spreads as everyone realizes how little time there is to prepare, while Kywan and his soldiers begin guiding all the civilians to safe places. With a worried expression, Heiju ruminates on Choi's disappearance. The scene shifts to the soldiers announcing to all citizens that they must remain in the evacuation centers, keep checking their statuses, and memorize all safe zones. A young soldier orders everyone to run away with their ears covered if they spot Choy and to inform the authorities. As if to further aggravate Choy, he declares that anyone who listens to Choy's advice and participates in missions while hiding their status under sacrifice of sovereignty will be treated as criminals and punished. Thus, a new order begins with Choy under prosecution, while Kywan continues his role as commander and Heiju trains to prepare for the next turn. Now that 24 hours have passed, the player rolls their dice, moving the pawn 4 spaces ahead, revealing an announcement that the pawn has landed on the Demon King's seal. The win condition is to quickly destroy the demonic pillars protected by pillar guardians, or the Demon King will be summoned, causing certain destruction. The calculations taking place reveal the mission duration to be 5 days, making Kywan and Heiju optimistic about the ample time available. It is then explained that for the 3 pillars summoned, the first pillar is protected by a level 1 guardian, known as the Fateless Fallen Angel. Yikes, this so-called angel looks more like a devil of death and depression. An eerie-looking spider marionette monstrosity, also level 1, is unveiled as the second pillar's guardian, showcasing its ability to create increasingly better creatures. For the third pillar, a formidable level 3 guardian catches both Kywan and Heiju's attention, the Goblin swordmaster Jack. The boss, renowned for his peak martial arts skills and extraordinary physical limits, is highlighted in the announcement. The scene shifts to Choy. Lying on a magic circle amidst a chaotic array of research materials, his mouth curling into a devilish smile upon seeing the announcement. Meanwhile, the civilians begin their desperate and haphazard attack on the pillars. Kywan notices that the action has begun and asks Heiju about her plan, but to his surprise, a soldier informs him that she's already left. Disappointed by the breakdown of all their planning in just one day, Kywan is left frustrated. Meanwhile, Heiju approaches the giant third pillar, its crimson light illuminating the battlefield. An intimidating aura oozes from the swordsman sitting ominously beneath the tower. Determined to heroically defeat the level 3 boss, before it can cause any casualties, she charges forward, her flame wings propelling her. However, the heavy blow she plans to land with her axe is effortlessly halted by a mere swing of the Goblin swordmaster's blade. Catching her off guard, the Goblin initiates a counterattack, flinging her away with a twist of his wrist. He raises his sword, now glistening blue with energy, and slams it downward, creating a giant energy wave that nearly splits Heiju in two. At the last millisecond, Choy swiftly saves her using his broken agility stat. Heiju's face flushes with happiness at Choi's heroic arrival, but she is quickly shocked when he tells her to inform everyone that he will use their rewards selfishly without hesitation, and that no one should approach him if they do not wish to be robbed of their rewards. Choy decides that if he cannot return everyone's points or escape the curse of his demon cane book, he will put his points to good use. He orders the system menu to completely max out his stat points. Heiju stares in confusion, hearing the ringing sound of Choi's level ups. All the citizens of Pawn 8 receive the announcement that Choy is the first player to reach level 100 in all stats. Bro is flexing his stats like buck at ease. To add further to his over 400,000 power, he commands the system to roll equipment dice automatically, only giving him equipment of heroic class. A tornado of equipment rolls appears before him, cladding him to the peak with overpowered equipment. Swordmaster Jack raises his head, now looking at Choy, as if he has become a worthy opponent. Our protagonist has made up his mind to use his power to be the protector of the city and end the game to atone for his mistake, not caring for what the people call him. Choy receives an announcement that Swordmaster Jack has acknowledged him and will begin attacking. He breaks the tension by declaring he has no time for Jack right now, then flies off with his heroic equipment, magic air shoes that allow the user to jump and float, mimicking flight. As Heiju watches her hero take off, Swordmaster Jack simply sits back down in boredom. Quota takes advantage of the fact that the Swordmaster does not attack unless provoked first, and dashes at breakneck speed toward the first pillar's boss. He starts the fight by stomping on the fallen angel's face. No need to worry, considering the thing wasn't very good looking before either. While Choy begins his fight with the pillar boss, the citizens look at him in anger and motivate each other to gang up on him. They are soon left bewildered by the sheer speed at which he is fighting the pillar boss. Choy explains how the monsters have special traits that can ease or worsen a fight, unlocked under certain conditions. The importance of approaching this pillar boss first lies in the dangerous trait unlocks after killing 100 humans. The already terrifying creature evolves into a fallen angel that leaves the pillars to slaughter all humans. Choy takes up the responsibility to deal with such a dangerous boss first, to prevent any catastrophe. The overpowered hero uses his swift movements and finally slices off the angel's wings, having utilized the beneficial traits of the monster. Only Choy knows that clearing the mission's not enough. Rather, what is important is the method used to clear them. Kywan gives orders to clear everyone within 500 meters of the first pillar, assuring their safety from Choy. The sergeant wonders if Choy was unable to, or chose not to return everyone's reward points. Ultimately, he decides to put his trust in Choy's intelligence and good heart, rather than make an emotional judgment, reflecting on the irony that Heiju, who was previously tempering Choy, is now being hasty herself. He hopes the mission reaches success. Meanwhile, an army vehicle passing near the first pillar is nearly struck by a laser beam from the sky, causing it to roll away from the blast. Its passengers, Kywan, and his squad exit the trashed vehicle in confusion, their eyes turning toward a silhouette standing atop the defeated boss, holding its wings and halo in his left hand. It is none other than Choy, wielding the boss's legendary rank sword in his right hand, a weapon with the powerful ability to turn monster parts into items. When Kywan casually speaks to Choy, our hero remains silent as another laser beam descends on the fallen angel's nearly dead body. Kywan is still lost in thought about Choy when his subordinate points out that the boss is not dead yet. The system reveals that since the wings and halo of the boss have been removed, Choy has unlocked a special trait that transforms the fallen angel into a corrupt creature. Its body sprouts new parts, and the first pillar boss has now become the level 2 difficulty boss. The Behemoth roars in the face of the two soldiers, making Kywan curse his difficult military life. Someone give this man a good retirement package, he needs it. The army calls for reinforcements for headquarters as they engage in combat with the level 2 boss. At the same time, our hero is seen fleeing the scene, apparently leaving the Behemoth to the soldiers. The troops, seeking backup, flee in fear when the monster uses its fear skill. Kywan then takes charge, distracting the boss and leading it away. The monster jumps and lands on the sergeant, crushing him and leaving only blood on the ground. Choy, however, appears satisfied, claiming he has dealt with the first pillar's boss. A green light emerges from beneath the boss's claw, where Kywan's corpse should be, revealing that a secret skill of Kywan's helmet, with the condition of having a near-death experience, has been activated, imbuing him with the ghost of Helden, the heretic inquisitor. Kywan, now filled with divinity and resistance to the corrupt creature's attacks and skills for 10 minutes, begins muttering to himself. His powers enhance his subordinates in the Iron Club, granting them the fanatic skill. They appear to be crying and charging with newfound strength and vigor. Choy observes the soldiers, who look weirdly frightening, shout and chant about some goddess in a fever dream state. Memories of Kywan's past resurface when he recalls asking his battalion commander, as a mere sergeant, if he really is getting a car of his own. Commander Kim Song commends Kywan for his straightforwardness, making the sergeant feel a bit awkward. Kim elaborates that in such a chaotic situation, a calm observer who never loses his cool, like Kywan, is essential. Almost comically, the car is now damaged and the cool Kywan is possessed by a crazy ghost, shooting divinity-imbued bullets at the boss. In a frenzy, this once calm observer shouts at his 4 equally crazed subordinates to charge at the Behemoth, using their guns in unusual ways. Finally, Kywan takes his ghost flag and plants it into the monster, while the squad of 5 chants victoriously about their made-up goddess like lunatics. Kim Song receives the announcement of their victory at the first pillar, laughing in self-satisfaction, claiming that he already knew that his acknowledged Kywan had the potential to be the highest contributor. Meanwhile, Choy sits somewhere reading his grimoire and happily muses to himself about how his hunch was right. He notes that the Guardian maintained its low stamina, even after its corrupt transformation, making it easy for the Surgeon's squad to take it down in one shot. He is also pleased that the monster's contribution scale resets after transformation, preventing the rewards from funneling to their Monopoly hero. However, it is revealed that Choy isn't talking to himself like a lunatic, but is speaking to the Goblin swordmaster, Jack, who is casually listening to Choy's monologue. To grab Jack's attention, Choy entices him with a bet to unlock the Demon King's seal intentionally, if he wins, displaying a devilish smile that makes the previously relaxed Goblin turn serious. The scene shifts to Haeju, who is slicing through an anti-human machine with her flaming weapon, taking down creations left and right after receiving a rescue call. Frustrated, she looks at the giant boss of the second pillar, annoyed by how its creations keep getting upgraded. Determined to end the fight at once, she decides to use her most powerful ability, announcing for all in the vicinity to flee. To her surprise, the others criticize her, claiming that they also need reward points unlike her, who already has legendary rank weapons. A man rushes in to stab the boss's chest, proclaiming that he must earn points to save his family, unlike the last time with Choy when he failed. Others join in, using ranged weapons from behind cover. However, a giant energy beam from the boss annihilates the cover of a pair of civilians, making their deaths almost certain. Yet, an intervention for Haeju stops the destructive attack, leaving her exhausted. Out of worry, Haeju commands them to run, and before she even completes her sentence, the weak-willed fighters flee for their lives. Haeju giggles at the scared couple running away as the boss begins analyzing her body, to assess how much of a risk she poses. Once the analysis is complete, the monster starts synthesizing a creation to counter Go Heiju, named the Anti-Go Heiju Machine. Oh yes, truly a creative name. Our silver-haired queen decides to quickly dispose of the new machine being built, but is interrupted, as all the creations focus their attention solely on her. Realizing she is their target, Heiju stops for a moment, becomes fired up, and prepares to take them on. She destroys them all at once, then charges a powerful attack to take down the second pillar's boss. With her clothes in tatters, she shouts at everyone to clear out and unleashes a powerful flame attack into the sky. As all the civilians run, the giant chain of flames descends upon the arachnoid guardian. Flames erupt, enveloping the boss like a nuclear bomb, with sonic waves even impacting the fleeing civilians. Heiju smiles at the unbelievable spectacle before her. A single humanoid silhouette is seen floating inside a red barrier protecting the pillar, the level 2 difficulty elite creation, Anti-Go Heiju Machine. Heiju's vermilion eyes are left staring, as the machine blinks behind her almost instantaneously. She swiftly turns around and barely manages to deflect its sneak attack. As their weapons connect, Heiju is launched afar and lies on the ground, bleeding from her head. She notices a red-haired figure descending upon the pillar guardian and slicing his brain-like organ. Realizing it is Choy, she is unable to comprehend his actions, seeing only a red light flash onto the boss. At that moment, the Anti-Go Heiju Machine unleashes an attack on her, and she disappears, leaving only a blood stain where she lies. The machine begins detecting her presence from the blood traces, but fails. At the same time, it turns out that when Choy removed the brain of the Mad Brain's collective host, he triggered a special trait in the boss monster, Mad Order. The already menacing Pillar Guardian can now produce twice the number of non-elite creations at double the speed, until it is destroyed. Choy is standing on a roof, observing how everyone at the post is hidden out of fear. While people are struggling in the fight at the first post, everything around the second pillar is in flames. The army is trying their hardest to hold back the creations to help the civilians escape. Reinforcements arrive as Choy thinks about how defeating every foe by himself is meaningless. He focuses on the fact that in order to complete the game, he must not short-sightedly complete missions as they come, and needs the whole city to be strong and capable. Thus, firstly, Choy has achieved his first step to set up a capable commander, who is none other than Sergeant Kywan leading his squad to the second post. Secondly, he needs to champion Go Heiju, who is now lying on the ground, unconscious from the devastating attack she received from an elite creation designed to eliminate her. As she regains consciousness, she turns gladly to her savior, expecting it to be Choy. But she is shocked to see the Goblin swordmaster Jack casually standing next to her. She withdraws, screaming like a wuss, prompting the calm swordmaster to tell her to shut her hatch. She laughs at her own reaction and is surprised by Jack's ability to talk, but the boss ignores her, telling her they don't have much time and need to begin something. The swordmaster then shoots a blast of energy far off into the distance, speaking about how her training arc will soon begin. While Heiju is confused about what is happening, Jack's gunshot homes in on the Anti-Go Heiju Machine, which has finally succeeded in detecting her location. Thanks to the ranged attack, not far from the machine is Choy, using the newly gained trinket Mad Linked Brain to fool the Anti-Go Heiju Machine into treating him as its target. The monster begins charging a powerful energy blast, which Choy cunningly baits by positioning himself between the machine and the second pillar, causing the machine to destroy the very pillar it is supposed to protect. Choy then thanks the idiot for solving his problem, while taunting the elite creation like a little kid. Meanwhile, Heiju is sparring with swordmaster Jack, who easily pins her sword down and commands her to use her power. Enveloped in flames, she knocks the swordmaster back and begins her onslaught. While evading her attacks, Jack teaches her that instead of using her power blindly, she must control as much of it as she can withstand without getting harmed. Their training continues until they take a break, during which Heiju learns that Choy has assigned Jack the task of training her until she can defeat the Anti-Go Heiju Machine. They engage in a conversation about why Heiju allows the boss monster to train her. She explains her desire to grow stronger, believing that this journey might lead her to find her purpose. As she rises, she declares this motto has guided her life and thanks her sensei with a bow, which brings a smile to the swordmaster's face. He realizes that this girl is not simply being used by Choy, but is genuinely a martial artist on her own path. With a menacing grin, Jack suggests they now commence the actual training. 3 days pass, and groups of people hiding in the subway are seen, cowering in fear. A cowardly man engages in a heated discussion with a woman about how civilians should avoid fighting, when cracks suddenly appear in the ceiling. They choke on their saliva as the terrifying animatronic, the Antigo Heiju machine, lands in the subway. In its confusion, the corrupted creature detects a signal from Heiju and begins attacking indiscriminately, resulting in the unfortunate death of the whining man. It unleashes energy beams, threatening to annihilate everyone until it stops, believing its goal is achieved with the destruction of the strategic trinket Choy placed. As the machine returns to normal, it detects the signal of the real Go Heiju, whose bright flames captivate onlookers, evoking comparisons to an angel. A blazing Go Heiju lands with her axe in hand, prepared to confront the machine, designed to eliminate her. In the span of 3 days, Heiju has been training under the Goblin swordmaster Jack. During this time, it seems that special event conditions have been met, leading her to inherit his martial arts. As a result, she has received equipment above heroic class, and acquired a passive skill called the Swordmaster's Student, which enhances her proficiency with close combat weapons. The equipment Heiju receives is the heroic class armor she is currently wearing, known as Illusion Ember, which boosts her defensive power. Meanwhile, Choy, who is seated beside their goblin teacher Jack, asks about the unusual dress he is wearing. Jack explains that he has been wearing it for a long time. When Choy questions the chances of victory, Jack estimates them to be around 50%, given that Heiju has now learned his martial arts and improved her odds. The scene dissolves as Heiju engages in battle with her opponent. As the metal monster approaches, Heiju stands confidently, knowing she can handle it. When only 3 days and 15 hours have passed, the first pillar is destroyed. The second pillar is taken down about 2.5 hours later, and approximately 3.5 hours after that, Heiju successfully destroys the special machine monster AGM. The scene then shifts to the second pillar, being attacked by civilians and the army. Most citizens return from the game zone, and within the next couple of hours, the second pillar is successfully destroyed. Everyone cheers, thinking they have accomplished a mission without any help from Choi Yul. As the mission nears its completion, Jack reminds Choy of his promise. Choy agrees and prepares to break the seal. Meanwhile, soldiers are distributing food to their team and discussing the protection of the injured. Sergeant Kywan seems overwhelmed with duties and so tired that he misses his mother. Heiju catches up with Kywan as they head to meet Jack. She mentions that she promised her master, Jack, that the next time they meet, they will be bitter enemies, and she wonders if she can win. Kywan appears worried about Heiju and ponders what Choy might be planning. Suddenly, both are taken aback as they see Choy hastily approaching the sky. With immense force, Choy kicks the seal of the Demon King, shattering it. The system sends notifications everywhere, informing everyone that Choy has broken the seal, and the previous mission goals have been altered. Now, their new objective is to defeat and kill the Demon King, a level 6 difficult monster. As the seal breaks, countless feathery demons descend from it. The system warns everyone that failure to defeat the Demon Lord will result in game over for them. People grow frustrated over the announcement, believing Choy has ruined everything. They call him names, and even Heiju and Kywan appear bewildered, unaware of Choy's plan. The Goblin Ninja Jack, however, seems excited, having not expected Choy to actually break the seal. With a smile on his face, he draws his blade and readies himself for battle. He swiftly approaches the hole in the seal, slaying many of the descending monsters. He leaves the rest as an assignment for his devoted student, none other than Heiju. Meanwhile, Choy equips the items obtained by amputating a monster's wing and enters the Demon Realm, where he finds a humongous Demon Lord taking a nap. He wakes the Demon King, inquiring if any knowledge exists about the Demon King of Sovereignty, Krasina. The Demon King of Authority, Kadambaba, rises from his slumber, stating that he has never encountered such a name. The Demon Lord questions how a mere human managed to infiltrate his domain. Choy anticipates gathering information about the Demon King from his book through this one, but discovers nothing, which leaves him disappointed. He turns away, apologizing to the Demon King for the interruption and asks him to wait, as his opponent is on the way. Ignoring the Demon Lord of Authority, Choy causes irritation and embarrassment. The Demon Lord attempts to punch Choy, but he easily dodges, slashing the Demon Lord's arm in the process. Meanwhile, Jack also arrives at the scene, appearing slightly nervous after witnessing how effortlessly Choy severed the Demon Lord's arm. Choy puts on an act, convincing the Demon Lord that the action was a mere mistake. The Demon Lord becomes enraged, incredulous that a mighty being like himself could be attacked by a mere human. He regenerates his body, preparing for an all-out battle. Choy asks Jack if he wishes to switch places with him. Jack replies that he does want to, but points out that the Demon Lord apparently seeks revenge on Choy. Choy, acting very casually, comments that things have taken an unexpected turn at the last minute. He purposely remains standing and allows himself to be punched and blown away by the Demon Lord. Choy understands that if Jack engages the Demon Lord in a one-on-one fight, the conditions for a hidden event called the Martial Artist's Fate would be met, leading Jack to aim for mutual destruction with the Demon Lord. If Choy allows that to happen, the rewards for everyone would be significantly enhanced, and the citizens would receive a substantial amount of points. However, it appears that Choy is unwilling to let Jack die. Despite being smashed into the wall, Choy remains unworried due to his legendary grade armor, the Einherjar Battle Jacket, which automatically regenerates its durability. The enraged Demon Lord, radiating a purple aura, continued his relentless assault. Yet, Choy seemed to be enjoying it, as much as one might enjoy bathing in monsoon rains. Choy finds his plan unfolding smoother than expected, deciding to keep the Demon Lord occupied until enough hunting points are accumulated and no casualties occur. Meanwhile, Jack stands at a distance, speechless and unable to comprehend the unfolding events. The scene shifts to the army, engaged in a relentless battle against the monsters left behind by Jack. Sergeant Kywan appears weary as the monsters continue to spawn endlessly. Though the monsters pose little threat individually, their sheer numbers prove problematic for the populace. Some people are injured and struggling to fend off the relentless onslaught. Despite Kywan's efforts in defeating the monsters, he worries about Choy, who has antagonized the entire city by breaking the Demon King's seal. He fears Choy may be held responsible for any deaths that occur. The scene transitions to Heiju sitting in the back of a car, directing the driver towards the rescue signal. As a swarm of monsters approaches them, she leaps into the sky and incinerates every single one with a single attack. She guides the injured civilians to safety, while the crowd expresses anger towards Choy, labeling him a madman. They believe that if Choy hadn't broken the seal, they would have completed the mission by now. The lady questions Heiju about why she didn't react to the insult aimed at her boyfriend, expecting her to explode, instead of remaining cold-hearted and forgiving. Heiju blushes and firmly denies that Choy is her boyfriend. The lady, who seems to be some sort of spy, thanks Heiju by handing her a bag of chips. Heiju accepts it happily, but upon opening it, she finds only half a piece of chip inside. Meanwhile, the scene shifts back to Choy. Jack asks Choy to step back and probes if he's starting to like him. He suggests that in a normal world, Choy might have invited him out for a drink. This comment unsettles Choy, striking a nerve. Initially, Choy had planned to let Jack face the Demon Lord alone, but now it seems too late to trigger the martial artist's fate. As Jack's friendliness towards Choy reaches its peak, Choy's grimoire's hidden skill is triggered. Choy smiles, a sense of accomplishment evident on his face. Meanwhile, Jack is already locked in battle with the Demon Lord and appears heavily wounded. Despite his injuries, he seems fulfilled, having achieved his wish to confront the Demon Lord. As blood drips from his arm, Jack prepares to unleash a final, ultimate move that would ensure mutual destruction with the Demon Lord. However, before he can execute it, Choy intervenes decisively, tearing apart the Demon Lord's upper body from his trunk and defeating him for good. Announcements are swiftly made to everyone that the Demon Lord Kadambaba has been vanquished, with Choi Yul recognized as the top contributor to the victory. As the Demon Lord is annihilated, the system announces the disappearance of all summoned monsters. Jack begins to disintegrate, as he is also considered a monster. However, Choy directs his grimoire towards Jack, revealing a newly unlocked hidden skill. A reddish aura surrounds Jack, as Choi's skill allows him to recruit 4 overlords and form a familiar contract with them, provided they have maximum friendliness. Using the skill on Jack, Choy proposes his offer, and Jack accepts, vanishing into Choi's book. As the place around him begins to fade, Choy descends from the sky. He realizes that he has become someone despised by humans, yet allied with monsters. Despite this realization, a smile forms on Choi's face as he senses himself becoming less human with each passing day. As the mission concludes, the surviving citizens are awarded with commendations which appear to have increased due to the resurrection of the Demon King caused by Choy. This time, every individual receives points as rewards, with Choy receiving the highest tally, amounting to 200,000 points. The Chips lady from earlier sits calmly on a rooftop, observing Choi's descent and pondering whether he is the golden child or a trigger for a significant event. However, Her true intentions remain unclear at this point. Meanwhile, Sergeant Kywan, seated amidst the remnants of battle, ponders the possibility of a supreme unit in the game. He questions whether the existence of such a powerful entity, capable of easily defeating a demon lord, would go unnoticed by the players or be accepted. The scene shifts to the game player's location. One player, identified by their yellowish demonic hands, receives information about an abnormal unit and is asked if they wish to take action against him. Among the 4 possible actions presented, the player decides to annihilate Choy. However, an error message appears, indicating that the annihilation command is not possible. As the player selects the annihilation option, Choy senses a strange aura around him and wonders if something significant has occurred. Upon landing on the ground, he questions whether it is just his imagination or if he is being closely observed. Meanwhile, since the player of the 8 pawns fails to annihilate Choy, he commands the system to conduct a thorough inspection of Choy as the target unit. Subsequently, he designates Choy as a hidden unit, ensuring that none of the other players can detect him. With this action complete, the player resumes playing the game. The people express excitement upon receiving their long-awaited points, swiftly using them to open the healing tab and fully restore their limbs and health. Meanwhile, a police officer equipped with a magical class item that alters his voice like a messenger announces ongoing research regarding the reward dice received by some individuals. According to him, there are 7 types of dice. The number of faces on a dice determines the rank of the item it can generate, with higher-faced dice producing higher-ranked items. However, the elusive 100-faced dice has yet to be discovered since the first mission. Sergeant Kywan rolls the dice he received and it transforms into a glittering spoon named Destiny's Spoke, identified as a heroic class tool. Despite its classification, the spoon appears to be ordinary in appearance, except for its unique properties of returning to its owner and remaining perpetually clean. Kywan ponders whether a higher class always guarantees that the item will be useful. As everyone receives their rewards and the mission concludes, people seem to have adapted to their new circumstances. They engage in trading items amongst themselves and recruit each other into teams for the coming missions. Kywan asks Heiju if she's interested in joining the military, but she declines, stating her desire to aid those hiding in fear. Despite this, she assures Kywan of her loyalty and readiness to assist when the next mission begins. Reflecting on a popular saying that humans excel at adapting, Kywan finds it to be profoundly true. Meanwhile, Choy appears satisfied as everything unfolds according to his plans, resulting in a successful mission without any casualties. As he anticipated, the pieces of the puzzle are falling into place perfectly, and the events hereafter will determine the course of things. Choy understands that even a slight misstep could lead the city's own residents to turn against it, potentially resulting in devastation. As Choy talks to himself and considers his future plans, the chips lady from earlier sneaks up behind him. Reacting swiftly, Choy checks his grimoire and discovers her name is Kang. Well, thank you, Choy, for looking up her name. Now we don't have to call her Chips Lady anymore. Choy is taken aback and asks Kang how she managed to get there. Kang casually replies that she simply climbed up, teasingly suggesting Choy might be lonely all by himself. However, she quickly adds that he might already be accustomed to solitude. Choy attempts to discern Kang's true intentions, but she continues to playfully evade his inquiries. It appears she only came to check on him, then abruptly announced she would visit again before leaving. Confused, Choy wonders why she sought him out in the first place. Kang gives him a piercing look and asks if he can't see the reason in his grimoire. Choy expresses disappointment, explaining to Kang that the data he receives doesn't include the thoughts of others. Kang ties herself to a rope and leaps off the roof, telling Choy that she merely wanted to see the face of someone with the power to dominate the entire city, yet chose the more challenging path instead. Her sudden action startles Choy, who watches in shock, fearing for her safety as she descends. Meanwhile, an announcement broadcasts that the city's experience points have increased, leveling up to level 1. Alongside this milestone, new conveniences are introduced for the citizens, including features like adding or blocking others, and access to call services. Choy recalls that when the citizens spend points, it contributes to the city's experience gain and leveling up, yet he questions where the points he spends himself go. He wonders if they are directed to the Demon Lady or the Demon Lord residing within the book. Choy reflects on whether it is ethical for him to continue using the book under these circumstances. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Sergeant Kywan, who has risen from an ordinary officer to the rank of second lieutenant in recognition of his service. Kong glances at Kywan and the other officers, commenting that they are also holding their own well, but wonders where she should go to find her place comfortably. Meanwhile, it turns out she has knocked out some of the officers guarding the dice used for rolling equipment. As Choy sits comfortably, he is suddenly alerted by an announcement about a new mission. The city has been seized by a golden deity, and the residents are tasked with fulfilling its demands. They have 2 weeks to succeed. Failure could mean the city, or possibly the entire game, will be wiped out. The citizens are instructed to locate treasures within the 4 designated maps for this mission, with the value of these treasures determining how well they can appease the gold deity. Additionally, the army's analysis confirms that no monsters have been sent to the city. As discussions arise about the possibility of lotting out to receive the usual common rewards, the greedy gold deity triggers a new announcement. It declares that there will be no common rewards for this mission, and instead, individual rewards will scale based on how effectively each person satisfies the deity's demands. The citizens find this situation frustrating and disagreeable. The scene shifts to Haeju, who removes her jacket to thoroughly inspect the entire map. Meanwhile, Choy resolves to continue using Krasina's book until the end of the mission, intending to find a way to dispose of it afterward. However, as he contemplates getting rid of the book, a sword unexpectedly emerges from its pages, stabbing Choy through his chest. He experiences intense pain and confusion over what just happened to him. Suddenly, Choy receives a notification stating that he has been punished by the Demon King Krasina for his perceived laziness. The punishment will persist until the user of the book offers a sacrifice of sovereignty. Until then, Choy's HP will continuously decrease. Moreover, if his HP drops to 0, he will perish, and the book will select a new owner for itself. The scene shifts to a group of players deciding to explore the forest map, where they come across a large cave entrance that the leader identifies as a dungeon. A party member mentions that it is an unregistered dungeon, which makes the leader happy as they have one all to themselves. The nerdy mage beside the leader points out the potential danger of not informing the army, though they would earn about 50 points each for doing so. Kang Doyap leads his aptly named Kongs and Roses party. Such a creative name boasts of this guy's genius IQ. The man with a heroic grade sword scoffs at the reward of a mere 50 points and motivates his party to aim for greatness and make history in this new world. Suddenly, an ominous sound is heard from the cave. A pair of white eyes shine, as some entity with an ominous aura comes out. Kong and his party get ready for the gatekeeper monster with a smug attitude. Kong motivates his buddies, reminding them that they have faced much bigger prey and should stop acting weak. Their fiery battle spirit is abruptly crushed when an exhausted and profusely sweating Choy emerges from the supposedly unregistered dungeon, carrying a large sack of treasures on his back. Because he must use his sacrifice of sovereignty, Choy almost teleports behind one of the party members, revealing details about the boss, its weaknesses, abilities, and all the information the party would love to hear, causing them to scream and curse at him, while covering their ears to save their points. Choy, while sweating bullets from the curse's pain, recites all the information he knows, further enraging the party, who curse their souls out. The scene then shifts to a hotel, where later that day, Kong is complaining about the misfortune of his party being wasted on the first day of the mission by Choy, strengthening his resolve to take action. His mage buddy, however, advises him to give up for now, since they cannot do anything against the max-level player with mythical equipment. It is then revealed that the food court, where Kong's party is eating, is the sacrifice of sovereignty isolation camp. Kong discusses with another sacrifice party how devilish and evil Choy appeared, believing that was his real face. Can you blame him? The curse kicks our man in the nads every second he breathes. While sacrifice victims keep gossiping about how heinous Choy looked when they last saw him, our protagonist is sitting alone with his treasures in a dark room. He hears a laugh from the grimoire, as it states that Krasina is somewhat pleased with his sacrifice, so the curse's pain will slightly decrease. Choy finally regains his senses as the pain decreases, reflecting on how there was no punishment mentioned in his weapon's description, noting the irony of how the omniscient book does not reveal complete information about itself. With his heart throbbing and his still aching body, Choy feels satisfied with himself, believing that by the end of this mission, he will show Demon King Krasina who the real boss is. And so, Choy's plan begins, as he sits on treasure guarded by a level 3 difficulty monster, the Golden Emperor Gryphon, now chagrined straight at him. Elsewhere, a level 2 difficulty rock troll roams, only to be swiftly decapitated from behind by Haeju. who uses her newly developed skills from training with swordmaster Jack. The silver-haired warrior stands with satisfaction at her current power when she overhears another woman commenting that the reward is subpar. Juwoo's question about why she is following Haeju, she unapologetically replies that she simply wishes to piggyback off Haeju's efforts, leaving Haeju speechless at her lack of shame. As the two travel further, Haeju stops Juwoo to send a message to her uncle about the coordinates of a treasure. Haeju criticizes Juwoo for following her all day, without returning to the city with the rewards. Juwoo explains that, unlike everyone else, she does not need to return to the city to get her treasure appraised, since she has a very discerning sight. This impresses Haeju, the cunning woman. As they travel on, Juwoo explains how the mission is a competitive scenario, where monsters are not the foe, and the treasure is not owned by anyone, until it is appraised in the city. This makes the choice of players attacking each other to steal treasure a despicably viable strategy. Somewhere else, as if already foreshadowed by Juwoo, a crime scene at a motel is shown. The police are investigating where a robber broke in through the window when one of the officers welcomes detectives Seo Eun Seok and Kang Dushik. He explains how the victim was knocked out during treasure appraisal. By the time the victim woke up, everything was gone. Seo remarks that they should have given the treasure directly to the god of gold, while Kang laughs at how people wait for the random appraisal timer between 1 and 12 hours like fools, waiting to be robbed. Seo expresses frustration at the system for allowing such a terrible strategy to succeed, making Kang respond that it is merely human nature. A police officer thinks out loud who the perpetrator could be, and his partner shouts out Choi's name. The officer denies the idea that Choi is behind this, but the moment is disrupted as Choi, riding his golden emperor Griffin, dives straight at Detective Seo. Seo grabs Choi by the face, mid-air with his left hand. The thumbback glove, a legendary weapon equipped on Seo's right hand, charges as he prepares to jab Choi, and lunges out the motel window straight down to the ground. Khan casually whistles, ordering the officers to send out a Choi alert, and makes a snarky remark about how impressive it is for Seo to jump in blindly, despite being far beneath Choi in power and equipment. The nefarious detective even comments that it would be entertaining to see Seo die because of this mistake. Meanwhile, the burly detective, sitting atop Choi, is bewildered by how the infamous villain has not made a single move, wondering what Choi is planning. Who the hell allowed this guy in the agency? Notifications ring all around the city revealing that Choi has been arrested. Some spread rumors that he is being interrogated by the police, while others theorize that this is part of his plan. Hearing this news, civilians go crazy with joy, believing they can now finally go treasure hunting, without fear of Choi's interference. For some unknown reason, the god of gold is enraged. The scene shifts to soldiers hunting in a goblin village, using their heroic class weapons to take down goblins left and right. Not a single goblin survives, as they are all under observation by a surgeon with a rifle. The surgeon, in a suspicious overcoat, Park Seong-gyuku, reports to his platoon commander along with Kywan that their mission is almost finished. A goblin priest stands inside a fiery summoning circle, looking menacingly at Park, raving about how all the humans will perish once the goblin deity arrives. Before it is able to finish its words, a soldier in Kywan's team, Kim Kwang-soo, uses his explosion ring to blast the summoner to smithereens. Kywan looks at the scene with sympathy, thinking how it is unfair to attack when the opponent is transforming or summoning, but acknowledges that only in anime does that matter, not in war. The soldiers continue exploring the goblin village, until they arrive at their target, the 18 kidnapped citizens who were previously missing. Seeing the horrifying scene of the abused men and women, they call for backup. The scene shifts to the army headquarters, where the platoon commander affirms the request for backup, along with a construction unit planning to renovate the goblin village into an outpost. The rat-faced platoon commander asks Kywan about what Choi might be intending by intentionally getting caught, but Kywan instantly declines to speculate, wasting not a single breath. Meanwhile, sitting amidst a sea of holograms, Choi plans how to beat Krasina, the demon king with nearly infinite knowledge and mental capacity to strategize. At the same time, his Emperor Griffin is sitting outside, yawning in boredom as the police officers look at it like they are sightseeing in a zoo with their families. Choi devours the food given to him in the cell, while Detective Kong and Seo are at the interrogation table with him. Seo bluntly declares to Choi that he is now a criminal charged with robbery, fraud, and even murder. Choi raises his spoon in the air and laughs, while gladly pleading guilty to the crimes, leaving Seo speechless. With a smile on his face, Seo mentions how in his 20 years as a detective, he can tell with a single glance that Choy is not a bad person, while Kong is staring with curiosity at the floating grimoire in front of him. Seo shares his belief that what happened to Choy was probably an accident, making Kong put his sleazy hand on Choy's shoulder, as if comforting him. Wouldn't be a surprise if this man had touched a lot of others with that slimy hand. Seo appreciates that Choy turned himself in, and tells him that he will make sure to help clear up Choy's misunderstanding. To his surprise, after Choy finishes his meal, he silently places his spoon on the desk, making it clear to Seo that he did not come here for help. Seo glares at him in confusion, when an officer suddenly interrupts, reporting an assault case involving a culprit with heroic rank equipment. Thus, the two detectives take off in a car, with Kong expressing his villainous worldview to Seo, insisting it only makes sense that the world be chaotic, full of new powers and a new world order. Seo dismisses his depraved partner's insane comments, telling him to act more normal. Warming up his fists, he states that no matter what world they are in, everyone is still human, and it is his job to fight crime. As the culprit attempts a slash on the victim, Seo intercepts the strike and crushes the heroic rank weapon with his fist. The man, seeming tiny in front of Seo's hulking build, is informed that he is under arrest, with no right to resist. Witnessing the giant detective's menacing presence, the man surrenders and is taken to the car. Kong, leaning at the door, reminds Seo that Earth's laws no longer apply and suggests that the two of them could rule the city if Seo cooperates with Kong's evil yet genius mind. Seo responds with a self-assured smile, stating that he keeps Kong by his side, precisely because he is the most dangerous man in the city. After their exchange, Kong silently ponders why Choy would get arrested and publicizes it just as a mission has begun. He then comes to an amusing realization and shares with Seo that their workload will increase as people go wild during this golden window, when Choy is not free, exactly as Choy planned. Seo, defending Choy, denies Kong's theory, but the sly man continues to wonder about the aftermath of the next mission. Meanwhile, in a dark room, Choy sits on a chair, enduring the curse's pain. He reads his system notification, showing his remaining stamina and Krasina's displeasure at his lack of sacrifices. A glowing yellow artifact, Monkey King's tail hair, that is capable of creating a clone of the user is used by Choy, whom he leaves to act as his substitute, while the real Choy hides in an invisibility cloak. Since he wasn't already OP enough, he can now use the Shadow Clone Jutsu by turning invisible. Thanks to the legendary rank Phase Transition Cape, Choy entrusts his clone to last as long as possible before it is caught. A police officer rushes Choy's clone by urging it to hurry up his business, causing the clone to give him an ominous look that makes the officer choke. The officer asserts his authority over the clone, indicating he is now in charge, regardless of whether the clone likes it or not. Consequently, the clone menacingly approaches the door, scaring the officers, and states its readiness to sleep in the isolation ward designed especially for him. Choy's griffin, parked outside, suddenly flaps its golden wings and takes off into the sky, leaving the guards baffled by the majestic beast flying into the distance. It turns out Choy had mounted his summoned beast. While invisible, and now with the cloak removed in the sky, he decides to move on to the second stage of his plan, having successfully mobilized the civilians in the first stage. After 4 days, it is revealed that the people of the city have been divided into two groups: the outers, tasked with treasure hunting, and the inners, responsible for maintaining peace inside the city. Both sides are open to recruitment, allowing everyone to choose the role that suits them best, making the mission proceed smoothly. One night, Kywan observes workers diligently, renovating the Goblin village into an outpost while sipping tea, reflecting on how, despite the mission's smooth progress thus far, trouble is arising in the city. Treasure-related crime is rising exponentially, and the police struggle to respond appropriately due to a lack of equipment. Kywan reflects on his earlier conversation with the platoon leader, where they discussed the disastrous outcomes of involving the army in policing. They agreed that even when the police request help, the army should only assist without taking control of public order. In another part of the city, a mysterious humanoid with a demon's head tortures a man using a mythical rank orb, deriving pleasure from the man's suffering. The man offers his treasures in exchange for his life, but the humanoid reveals that it seeks his despair, not his riches. This grim scene is abruptly interrupted by Detective Seo, who, accompanied by his partner Kong, throws a powerful punch at the being. The punch hits nothing, as the mysterious figure turns into mist and vanishes. Seo and Kong then examine the unusual scene, noting that the treasures are untouched and the victim is still alive. Seo mentions that although they are unsure of the number of culprits, the stack of bodies in front of them indicates something horrible is at work. Kong jokes about the appearance of another demon king after Choy, the first, which annoys Seo. However, Seo agrees that Choy played a role in causing this type of crime to flourish. When Kong asks about the plan, Seo explains that he will interrogate Choy's friends. Meanwhile, Choy flies on his griffin. Feeling disappointed at the slow progress of the mission so far, he dismounts his griffin, landing in an area surrounded by a tornado. Landing in a sea of treasures and gold coins, it is revealed that Choy has collected all the best treasures and is cultivating his very own baby god of gold. I thought raising kids was expensive, but even Bill Gates can afford this child.